Hotel World. This your brother Matthew Daniels, aka Ampu, aka The Chosen Few, aka The Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm, I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And y'all saw the title of this one. He said, she said. Right? He said, she said. And today we are going to be covering the topic of conversations. How to properly construct a conversation when you're writing your book. What to do and what not to do. Y'all know I gotta have my coffee. But a lot of people, when they're writing a book, and some of the well-known published authors, I see them doing this a lot too. What they do is they construct a wonderful story, a beautiful novel, right? Descriptions are on point, character building is on point. Everything that they're saying, you can actually see it in your mind's eye. It's so vivid, the colors, the look of the people. It's almost like you can hear what they actually sound like. You can see what it is that they are driving. You can visualize the places that they are visiting, and you are drawn in emotionally to them. You love the characters who the author wants you to love. You hate the characters who the author wants you to hate. You're what's the word that I'm looking for? You're nonchalant about the characters that they do not embed a specific feeling for that character in. It's like you ride that wave with the author all the way from start to finish. But where a lot of books fall short, and I'm going to be honest, when I first started writing, okay, this was a hard point for me as well. So I know it's going to be some of you guys out there this is a hard point for as well. So again, I want to help you along and help you to not make some of the same mistakes that I made. And if you're having problems with this, I want to give you some tools that you can use to get over that hurdle. Now, the mistake that they make is when their characters are having conversations in their book, they overuse the terms he said, she said. Now, you may not understand that this is a problem, right? But I'm going to tell you something. When you're writing a book, and every time the characters are having conversations, because there are going to be several conversations in the book, what you want to avoid is always saying, he said, she said. And it could be a name, you know, not just he said, she said, but just that basic phrase. It could be the real bookworm said, right? Raquel said, he said, she said. That's basically what I'm talking about. And you may, and I'm just coming off the dome with this, so it may not make any sense, but you're writing a book and some characters are having a conversation. And then you write something like, and he said, do you know where my keys are at? And she said, no, look for them. And he said, I have looked for them. And she said, well, where did you look? And he said, I looked under the couch and I looked on the dresser. And she said, well, did you look inside of the dresser? And he said, you get what I'm saying? Whenever your characters are having a conversation, you're going to be it's almost going to be automatic, but what you're going to think about is making sure that the reader knows which character is speaking. And that's why people fall into this trap, the he said, she said trap, because they understand that this is not a movie. It's not a video. You can't see who's making the statement. And it's not like audio, you know, so they can't hear who's making the statement. So in order for the reader to know who's writing, there are certain things you have to do so that they can follow the conversation, because you don't want the real bookworm to be saying something in the book, but you don't properly express that, and so the reader believes that it is Raquel saying something in the book, and then the conversation doesn't flow and the conversation doesn't make sense, and you totally lose your reader. So what a lot of authors do, that when you're writing, you're going to understand that automatically. You're going to want your readers to know who's doing the speaking. So you run the risk of falling into the he said, she said trap. And you're going to want to, either at the beginning or at the end of every single statement, say who is saying it so the reader will know. Now the concept, right? The concept of explicitly stating who is speaking is important. It is valid. You do not want to have all of your conversations with no he said, she said type of a vibe to it, because it's going to get very confusing. And he said, she said is okay. I use it all the time. I mean, it's right on the money. It gets straight to the point, and it is a perfect tool. I'm not saying never say he says, she said. I'm not saying don't use it often. What I'm saying is you don't want that to be the only thing you use to designate who is speaking. So what I'm going to do in this video, now that I briefly explained what I'm talking about and why I'm talking about that and how that can be a problem, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys some tools that you can use when you're writing your book to avoid falling into the he said, she said trap. So the first thing that you want to consider is there are other words in the English language, right, that can express the same point as he said, she said, right? You can say replied, responded, thought, admitted, confessed, lied, right? And what I'm talking about is, let's say, instead of saying, he said, no, I did not look inside of the dresser, okay? Depending on the context of that statement, you can say, he confessed that he had not, and he confessed, I have not looked inside of the dresser. Or, I have not looked inside of the dresser, the real bookworm confessed. Or, instead of saying, I did look inside of the dresser, he said. Or, he said, I did look inside of the dresser. You can say, I did look inside of the dresser, he lied. Or, he lied and said, right? You add other words. You can say he responded, or he replied, he thought, he admitted, he confessed, he lied, right? So that's one tool that I want you to get in your mind, and I want you can write some of those words down, because that small list will take you far, right? That small list, just adding a couple of more words will spice up your book, will spice up your novel a whole lot. Okay, instead of saying he said all the time, he replied, especially if the context of the conversation is they are responding to something that someone said, as in one character, and she asked him, right? Instead of said, she asked him, have you looked inside of the dresser? No, I have not, he replied. No, I have not, he responded. No, I have not, he admitted. No, I have not, he confessed. Okay, so what I want you to do is use your mental thesaurus when you're writing your conversations and think, is there another word that I can use besides said? That way you won't fall into the he said, she said trap. Now I'm going to tell you guys something. When you're writing your book, this is another thing that I want you guys to understand and consider. When you're writing your book, if it is a conversation between two people, right? If it's a conversation between two people, once you get it established who is saying what in what order, the reader, because they speak the same English language that you do, and because their brain is proficient in conversation, you can actually take the he said, she said totally out. You don't have to say admitted, replied, confessed, lied. You don't have to say none of that, because their brain is going to understand. But what you want to do is when the conversation begins, you establish who's having the conversation with the flow of the story. And then you may say that, oh, and she asked him, has he looked inside of the dresser? No, I have not, he replied. Why haven't you? and you don't have to say anything else, and the reader is going to automatically know that you're talking about Raquel at this point and not the real bookworm, because the real bookworm just spoke. And then when that statement that doesn't have a he said, she said applied to it, why haven't you, right? I didn't think it was necessary. That's in the quotations next. I didn't think it was necessary. The reader is going to know that that was the real bookworm responding to the question. So at several points inside of your novel, you don't even have to use the he said, she said. I know you may be afraid of totally leaving your reader in the blank, or in the blind, rather, totally leaving your reader in the blind about who's actually saying what in the conversation. But if you establish it in the beginning of the conversation, about 3 or 4 replies in, you can just let the conversation go, and the reader is going to be able to keep up with they're talking back and forth to one another. Okay, they're going to understand that. They're going to understand that. So another tool that I want you guys to think about, because you may be confused about how to construct the conversation without saying he said, she said. And if you've ever tried to write a book, you understand what I'm talking about. But if you're going to try to write a book, you're going to catch on to what I'm talking about really fast. What you want to do is think about the action that the character is taking while making the statement. And if you explain and express the action, right, or the emotion that they have while making the statement, that would be sufficient enough, and you can further get yourself away from the he said, she said. Let me give you an example. Okay, let me see. Falling to her knees, she sobbed, "Why have you done this?" Okay, imagine someone has just been hurt, okay, and they are about to say, "Why have you done this?" Like, why have you done this to me? And in your mind's eye, that character is going to be falling to their knees and crying while making that statement. That is how the scene is flowing. That's how you're writing it. Instead of saying, "And she said, why have you done this?" right? You can describe what's happening with the words. You can say, falling to her knees and sobbing, or I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember what I said. Falling to her knees, she sobbed. I'm gonna have to start taking some notes for this. Falling to her knees, she sobbed, "Why have you done this?" Or let's say one of your characters, they are very upset, they are very angry, right? Someone or something has gotten under their skin. She yelled, she screamed, okay? Slamming the door. No. "Why have you done this?" she said, slamming the door. Now, I brought back in the she said, but when you tie the she said to that physical action, you spice it up a little bit and you avoid the monotonous he said, she said trap. You understand what I'm saying? So with the conversation, what you may want to do is embed the action or the emotion that the character is either doing or feeling into the statement, right? If someone is crying, you know, she put her hands in her head and cried loudly, "Why have you done this?" As opposed to simply, "And she said, why have you done this?" You know, let's say two characters are you know, they're out on a date and they're eating something, and what they're eating is really, really good. You know, wiping the excess steak sauce off of his mouth, he exclaimed, "This is the best steak I've ever eaten." right? As opposed to and he said this is the best steak I've ever eaten. You know, now think about it. This is the best steak I've ever eaten, or he wiped the excess steak sauce off of his mouth with a napkin and proclaimed, this is the best steak I have ever eaten. It's going to automatically give your reader a grander picture, a more impactful picture of what is going on, right? And he said, this juice tastes good, right? And he said this juice tastes good, and he raised his head to the skies, never tasting nothing like this before, and professed before the entire restaurant, this tastes so good. You see how I utilize descriptive measures. I placed you inside of the restaurant. I made it appear that everyone was watching, right? And so now in your mind, I'm not just saying that the drink tastes good. You can actually see that it's an event taking place with the whole the drink tastes good. Because remember, your book you do not want your book to be monotonous, right? And you want the book to be as descriptive as possible. As descriptive as possible. So you can use these conversations as another mechanism to get in more descriptions, you know? And sometimes, like I told you guys, you don't even have to say he said, she said, or proclaimed, professed, replied, responded, asked, lied. You don't even have to say any of that if the reader can already understand through implications who's having the conversation. You can simply add descriptive measures and just say what they said, right? And he smiled. I love it when you hug me. Right? And he smiled. Then the quotations, I love it when you hug me. Right? Becoming and he became very upset. I hate it here. You're going to understand, the reader is going to understand that that statement is inherently tied to the individual who just had the emotion. Okay? And because you gave that emotion, you gave more context and more descriptions to the scene. So what I'm talking about here, that he said, she said trap, you don't want the conversations to get monotonous. Okay? Yes, you want your reader to be able to understand who is saying what, when, and where. But you want to use this as an opportunity to, one, go into your mental thesaurus and use different words other than said. You also want to utilize the mechanism of describing how they are saying it when they say it. And you want to describe what is going on around them as they say it. So what you want, like I say, think about how the character is actually saying this in your mind. Are they happy? Are they sad? You know, if they're happy and he joyfully yelled and he gleefully proclaimed with a smile on his face, he skipped around the room chanting, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. You see what I'm doing here? If an individual is sad, right? If in your mind, in the scene, the character is going through something emotional and they are sad, and she fell to the ground and sobbed, why have you done this? With throwing her face into her hands, she cried loudly, why have you done this? Right? Why did you hurt me like this? She screamed as she ran out of the room. You know? "Baby, I'm sorry," he said as he chased behind her, right? So instead of the monotonous he said, she said, you want to use different words to describe that action, and you know which words to use based on the context of the conversation. And you also utilize that moment in the book to give it more flavor and describe it more. You see what I'm saying? You can even use conversations as a tool to help build your characters and give more of their backstory, right? Let me try to think of a good example off the top of my head. Let's say you have two people having a conversation, right? And one person says something that makes the other person upset. Okay, so you write in whatever they say, like, I don't know, "Get the heck out of my face, your breath stink." I don't know, "Get the heck out of my face, your breath stink." And so now this other character is about to respond in an aggressive way. What you want to do before that character responds in that aggressive way, you utilize that as a moment to character build. And you go into a side note before they actually respond. You take the reader inside the mind of that character so they can understand what is going on in their head once they heard that statement, and what is going on in their head that prompts the response. And so this is going to make your characters more real, and it is going to make your conversations in your book more impactful and more exciting. And you can just go into the get the heck out of my face, your breath stinks. And then you go in, maybe it's the real bookworm that they said this to. The real bookworm took a moment to process what had just been said to him. He could remember as a child he was always picked on for having bad breath. He didn't like it then, and he didn't like it now. It got to the point when he was in about the 5th grade that every time someone tried to bully him about his breath, he would XYZ, I don't know, punch him in the mouth, choke him, grab him, slap him, do something aggressive. Okay, and so now the reader is they're going to be like, "Oh wow, that was a major insult. That was a major insult that they just gave the real bookworm." And then you give him some insight like, "Oh, he probably finna fly off the handle because the reader is now telling me that he got picked on about this as a child. He didn't like it, and after he got to a certain age, he started responding a certain way, and that way was always aggressive." So now you got your reader locked in. Now they're anticipating that response, right? And you just built it up. And so then when the real bookworm responds in an aggressive way, bam, you just added some more flavor to your book. You just added a little more spice. You just kicked it up a notch. Like I told you guys, what I want to do is I want to help you write your novel. I want to help you write your book. And I'm telling you the tricks of the trade that'll get you from start to finish. I'm telling you, it's going to get you from start to finish. This is how your mind needs to operate. These are the things that you should be thinking about as you write your book. These are the ways in which you can get it done. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Okay? So, he said, she said. Spice it up. I'm trying to show you guys how to make conversations within your books. A lot of people fail to capitalize properly off the conversation in a book. They don't understand the value of the conversation in the book, because the conversation in the book, it gives you a lot of opportunities, right? It gives you an opportunity to character build. It gives you an opportunity to flashback. It gives you an opportunity to just play with a whole lot of different words. It gives you an opportunity to describe the scene a little better. If you didn't describe the scene at first, if you have your characters walking into a restaurant and you don't explain every nook and cranny of the restaurant and who all is there, then as your characters are having a conversation, hearing bits and pieces, you can fill in the mental blanks for your reader, and you can further describe what's going on. As he cut a piece off of his steak, he noticed a couple sitting in a booth, and you can go anywhere with that. And then now the reader has more information about the scene that the characters are in. That's what the book is all about. The book is all about putting this image. You're with your words, you're putting a image into the mind of your reader. Never lose sight of that. Never lose sight of that. You're putting a image in the mind of your reader. Okay? And how the mind works, if you just say he said, she said throughout the whole book, the book isn't going to be as impactful to that reader. It is just not. But if you utilize some of these tools that I'm telling you to spice it up, you understand what I'm saying? To spice it up, it's going to make your story flow a whole lot better, and it's going to be more well received with the general public. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys took some notes. Again, go to my website and you can find more videos like this. I'm trying to cover as many topics of book writing as I can. Just go to my website, www.TheRealBookWorm.com. That's www.TheRealBookWorm.com. I see on the internet all the time people sell information on how to write a book, and I understand. I'm not mad at them, right? Information is valuable. Okay, information is valuable. I don't negate that. And if it's something that you really want, you should be willing to pay for it. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you guys some basic tools for free that can help you get started. Okay, so just go to my website, www.TheRealBookWorm.com, and just check out the videos that I'm uploading. Now, so far I've talked about the setting of your book, the importance of the setting. I've talked about character development. I've talked about the plot twist. Now I'm talking about he said, she said. I've gone over several things, so just go to my website and watch those videos. If you have to watch the video more than once, watch the video more than once. If you're trying to write a book, I'm telling you, I'm going to get you there. And make sure you keep checking back in with my YouTube channel, The Chosen Few. One word, The Chosen Few. Make sure you keep checking back in with my YouTube channel. Make sure you keep checking in on my website, because I'm going to keep loading content after content after content after content. I have a whole lot of videos that I'm going to be doing on this subject. Now, if you want a more, because in these videos I'm talking in general to the public. Right? I'm talking in general to everybody. I don't know you specifically, so I don't know specifically what it is you're trying to do or what it is that you're dealing with. And it may be something I said in this video that you want me to explain or expound on a little more. So if you go to my website, there's also a section, the contact section. Leave your name, email, and it'll give you an opportunity to send me a message. You can send a message directly to me and just let me know, hey, The Real Bookworm, I'm writing a book. I'm dealing with this. I'm having trouble developing the protagonist in my book. I'm having a problem developing the antagonist in my book. I'm trying to write a romance novel, but I need a little help on how do I build on a romance novel. You may be writing a children's novel, and you may want to specifically ask me what are some tools that I can give you that'll help you complete your children's novel. So just reach out to me and ask me any question that you want to ask, and I'm going to respond to you, and I'm going to respond to you more directly, and we're going to get you published. We're going to get your book finished. That's what I want. I want to see you with your ideas out of your head and your ideas on paper. You can do it. You have everything in you to do it. I'm just trying to help you, right? I'm just trying to help you get there on some things that you may be finding it hard to figure out. Let me help you. I've been there. I've done that. I've struggled. I've had successes. I've had failures. So I get it. I get it. I know where you're at, and I know where you're trying to go. Just let me help you. If that's something that you want, I'm the real bookworm. I love books. I love the written word. It's my life, right? It's my life. And if you're out there and you're trying to write, I feel a connection to you, even though I don't know you. And so I'm like, hey, man, we need as much literature in the world as we possibly can get. So if that's something that you're trying to do and you can't accomplish it, let me help you, because I know the world will be better off with whatever it is in your head that you're trying to get out on paper. The world will be better off with that out of your head and out on paper. Okay? www.TheRealBookWorm.com. Reach out to me. Share this video. Share it with somebody. It may not be you that needs the help. It may be somebody else. Let's get these videos into the hands of somebody that need it, so we can get more literature into the world. Once again, this your brother Matthew Daniels, aka Ampu, aka The Chosen Few, aka The Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm. I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, world, may your name live on forever, and may your memory never die. Hotel.